Hi everyone, this is Arcadius and welcome back to Naval Creed. Today we'll be going over the newest American heavy cruiser, that is Oregon City. This is the newest tech tree cruiser. She has been placed in between Baltimore and Des Moines, right here, and she is at a matchmaking 8.5. Now there were some changes made to adjust for this, specifically to Baltimore. She dropped down from an 8.2 matchmaking to an 8.0, and there were some statistics of her that have changed, but not too much, not enough to completely change her playstyle at all. Just balancing effects, I guess you could say. And in the place, we have a kind of nice little medium cruiser of Oregon City. Um, yeah, this is a pretty nice ship. I haven't actually had a bad game with her yet. She's pretty substantial. She's not as strong as Des Moines, and you can see the size difference here as well, where the Des Moines is this large and Oregon City is about this size, but it's pretty much just a mini Des Moines, except you have Baltimore guns. So yeah, pretty fun playstyle. For the majority of this video, I will be comparing her to Baltimore, which is the closest relative she has, I guess you could say. So there will be a lot of similarities, but for the most part, this is exactly just another Baltimore. Um, yeah, so let's take a look at our stats. So we have 44,500 health, which is just a couple hundred more than Baltimore. 15% torpedo damage resistance versus Baltimore's 14%. You can see all the stats here. She has a little bit worse maneuverability by about 10 meters for her turning silk radius. Honestly, you don't even notice it. They're both amazing. Guns, a little bit faster rate of fire. Baltimore has 5.5 rounds per minute. The Oregon City has 6.0. But other than that, their stats are the same. So it's still the same Mark 15 8-inch guns. So if you know how to use Baltimore guns, you know how to use Oregon City guns. They just fire a little bit faster, but other than that, they're just copy-paste. The range is a little bit more for her main battery range. Baltimore is 15.5 main battery range, and then Oregon City is 16.1. Though surprisingly, Baltimore actually has a farther secondary range of 5.3 kilometers versus 5 for Oregon City. But yeah, no problems with the range at all. She's also a little bit faster at 33 knots. One thing that I did find that was quite different is that Oregon City does not have a catapult plane. You have a plane all the way from like Pensacola, I'm pretty sure. Let's take a look. Yeah, so Pensacola has a plane. You have, let's see here, New Orleans. Do you have a plane? Yep, New Orleans has a plane. Baltimore has a plane. Des Moines has a plane. And you can even go over to Wichita has a plane, and Norfolk even has a plane as well. She launches 2 planes. But Oregon City is the only heavy cruiser, not counting the Alaskas, but they also have planes too, that does not have a plane at all. Now you do have a defensive AA, which is the only thing you can equip, as well as a heal and a normal repair. And I have her equipped for accuracy, since I kind of want to stay at range. You're at a tier high enough that you are tossed into tier 10 games sometimes. So if you as a tier 8.5 cruiser, you don't really want to be close to a tier 10 battleship. So as much accuracy and range you can keep, the better it is for you. AA defense, statistically, the numbers compared to Baltimore are almost exactly the same. They just switch it around a bit. So you have a little bit better middle ring DPS and a little bit worse inner ring DPS, but it's still pretty substantial, as you can see here. And I've had no real problem with her AA. I mean, it's an American cruiser. It's going to have pretty decent AA. One thing I did mention before, I don't know why she has 3 bridges. Like, this seems a little excessive. But other than that, I don't have a problem with the ship. So far in the game, we do not have the Albany, which is this ship, which is going to be a prism ship, as far as I can tell. You can see up here. In the corner it says buy for prisms. If you notice, this ship is quite similar to the ship we'll be reviewing today. The only difference is that instead of the 40mm Bofors, she has the 76mm autocannon here. But there will be some changes. Like I said, I've talked about this before. I'm assuming she's gonna have some kind of gimmick like radar or something. But if you're interested in a Prism heavy cruiser that's not Norfolk or Wichita or Alaska or Guam, you can play Oregon City and kind of get a good idea for how Albany is going to play. That right now, this is still just a guess. Like I said, until I actually play Albany, I can't say yes or no. But considering the ship is almost an exact copy paste, the only difference is that she gets 76 mils instead of 40s in these AA locations. She actually loses some AA guns here. And the fact that she is a 9.0 matchmaking versus an 8.5, such as Oregon City, it's gonna be the same ship, honestly. So it's similar to how New Orleans is kind of a playstyle for Wichita. Same thing's gonna be for Oregon City and Albany. So yeah, there's that. Actually, let's see if Albany gets a fighter plane. Does Albany get a fighter? No, she doesn't get one either. All right, so enough stats. Let's toss her into a game and see what we can do. All right, here we saw the game. We have 4 battleships, 5 cruisers, and 2 destroyers. No carrier. That's all right though. And yeah, you're pretty much just a Baltimore. The only difference is that you have a little bit better AA. Your guns fire a little faster. You have a little bit more health and survivability. And that's it. Disadvantages is that you just don't get the fighter. There's not really much. Also, her armor's pretty much the same too. Alright, so we're going to start by heading off to this side. We have high explosive ready. Let's see, what are we dealing with? A Yamato, all is this, an Iowa, Mino, Lee, Oregon City, 2 Fargos, and 2 Yutlins. Alright. So I do have health buffs and speed buffs applied, as always. Also, that's why I'm going a little bit faster than the 33 knots, and I have a little bit more than the 44,500 health. You're wondering why. But yeah, there we go. Fargo. Yeah, the ship is almost completely identical to Fargo too. It's quite similar. Alright, so we're just heading this way. It's pretty much just a Fargo with 8-inch guns. So let's see what we can do. We have high explosive loaded. You can actually honestly still do a lot of damage with high explosive. But armor piercing is really good as well against cruisers and battleships. So speaking of destroyers though, I keep getting shatters. Alright, so let's start working over this Yutland here. Pretty much already half health. And she goes undetected. Alright, let's switch to armor piercing because we're going to start getting some good broadsides here on these cruisers. You can see the shell arcs aren't terrible. They're obviously not as good as like Russian shell arcs, but I have no complaints here. And there we go, some pretty decent damage. Your rate of fire is good enough that you're literally like a mini Des Moines, honestly. And honestly, that's a good way to describe the ship. It's just a mini Des Moines. So if it's the in-between step between Baltimore and Des Moines, which is where she is in the tech tree, but that's actually how she feels too, which is sometimes not what you always get. And you can see how she is very quick to punish cruisers who give broadside, just like Des Moines. Alright, so we got some of the cruisers out of the way. Let's see what else we have. Can we shoot any? Nope, they're behind the island. Alright, so now we're going to slow down a bit and start punishing the broadsides of these battleships. I've had pretty good luck with armor piercing on the broadsides of battleships too. You get just chunk after chunk, and you just slowly whittle them down. Look, that was over 10k damage in one salvo on a battleship. Alright, so that one's there. Next. And you just slowly whittle them down. You can light fires too if you really wanted to, but I have the nice broadside, so I'm aiming for the upper belt so I don't just shatter on the main belt. And just do as much as you can. Another 10k salvo. I was angled, so let's go back to all this. And yeah, you just slowly work down. You don't really want to get too close. As you can see, I am kind of keeping my distance at about over 10 kilometers. And that's kind of how you want to play this ship. You want to be in a spot where you can escape to concealment if needed. But for the most part, you're just spamming shells left and right. I'm going to slow down even more right now because I do see the Iowa that is right in front of me, but she is behind the island, so she's not a threat right now. And she seems pretty okay to stay there. We're just going to keep working over the Alzas. It may feel like you're not doing anything, but the damage total you'll get at the end of the game may surprise you sometimes. Alright, so Alzas is angled just enough that it doesn't really matter what I do. So I'm going to switch to Yama and see if I can finish her up. Yep, see 5 ricochets. And let's see if we can finish off Yama. Well, we got 11k there before she went down. Okay, so Iowa is now giving us a good side shot. You can see the gun angle I can use for all my turrets. It's actually pretty decent. You're still going to take a lot of damage if you're fired at by large caliber shells, but if you're fired at by like a heavy cruiser, you might be able to ricochet relatively easily. Alright, so this Iowa's not giving me a good shot at all. I'm gonna stop because she is almost out of secondary range. Was it 6.3? So just a little bit of time before she gets out. But we can take that time to work over this Iowa a little bit. So Oregon City is a team kind of oriented ship. She can do alright solo, but that's not how she's really supposed to be played. You want someone else to have the attention of the enemy ship while you just peck at it little by little and get a lot of damage. You just aim for the upper belt and you just do consistent damage. And there goes the next Iowa, and then this Iowa is already almost down. So we should be able to finish her up soon enough. She's got 3 fires. Yeah, she's going to go down really quickly. So let's see what we can do. But you can see if there is another destroyer, I don't really have any fighter capability to spot it. And the heavy cruisers on American tech tree line don't have any radar. So my ability to actually spot is pretty limited. But we were able to do 207,000 damage, 2 ships were sunk, 193 shell hits, 1 aircraft was shot down, 11 citadels, 1 fire, 1 capped base, and 24 secondary hits for 5,300 base XP. Almost all of that was in main guns, 191,000 in armor piercing, and only 9,000 in high explosive. Fires did less than 1,000, and secondary battery, surprisingly, did actually over 5,000 damage. So, yeah, pretty straightforward. Heavy cruiser, your guns are your mainstay. Shoot as many shells as you can at the enemy while trying to keep your range and use that to survive. Obviously, if you try and go up against something like a Kerr first or a Tsushima or Super Yamato, you're not going to have as good luck. You're still just a heavy cruiser. You can see your armor is still only 6 inches on the belt, 8 inches on the turret faces, so there's not much protecting you. And just as easy as it was for me to Citadel and sink that Fargo and Minotaur game, the same can be done to you. Baltimore's armor is kind of trolly in that you can shoot the broadside and sometimes not get a citadel. Um, but Oregon City kind of has the same kind of side armor profile or playstyle as Des Moines. So if you show broadside, you're going to be citadeled. So do your best not to do that. With that, I will wrap up today's video. If you liked the video, make sure you like and subscribe. And tomorrow we'll be going over the newest rank point and my newest addition to the fleet, the amazing giant battleship Maine, or as I've renamed it, Rhode Island. Yeah, this is going to be a fun video. So again, thank you, take care, and have a good day.